So the Pypes Violator Muffler that's chilling right above my head right now is hands down going to be the most affordable way to get some nice sound and volume out of your Hemi-equipped 09 to 18 Ram if it's equipped with the factory dual exhaust. Again, at the $200 price point, this pretty much beats out any other exhaust currently available on the site, and the reason for that's obviously pretty simple. It's just a muffler with one inlet pipe and two outlet pipes, but I'm happy to say, as you just heard from the sound clips, it does sound very good. I'm going to give it a healthy 3 out of 5 on my loudness meter. You are still retaining the factory resonators on the tailpipe, so it's nothing too crazy, but that is honestly kind of a positive in my opinion, because if you're not a fan of drone, well, you don't have to worry about it in this case. The cab is actually dead quiet, so you're not going to have to worry about anything interrupting your volume or conversations inside the cab, especially if you're daily driving your truck. Now, honestly, there are a lot of catbacks that are still pretty affordable. However, I think that Mopar actually did a pretty good job of making the factory tailpipes and exhaust look good. So if you want to retain that factory look, but you want a nice bump in volume and sound, go ahead and stick around. I'm actually going to show you guys how to get this thing installed. It's very straightforward. It's pretty much a bolt-on job. There is one simple cut that you have to make to the mid-pipe up front here, but I promise you can definitely get this done at home with hand tools, and I'm actually going to walk you through it step by step. It should not take us more than 2 hours, so I'm going to give the install a modest 2 out of 3 wrenches on my difficulty meter. I'm going to show you guys what tools you need here in just a second. To install your Pypes muffler, you'll need the following tools: standard drive ratchet, a 15mm deep socket, an 18mm deep socket, an 18mm wrench, a measuring tape and marker, a cutting and deburring tool, and safety glasses. Optional but helpful tools include an impact swivel socket, an impact gun, a dead blow mallet, and a pry bar. So before we install our new Pypes muffler and mock up the length of the tubes that we need to cut, we actually have to remove our factory muffler. Now the factory muffler is held on with 3 clamps in total, 1 directly in front and 2 behind. To remove these clamps, you're going to need a 15mm socket. All right, once you have those clamps loosened, you can start pulling your factory exhaust off by one piece. We're going to make it easy. We're just going to remove the tailpipes. That's going to free up the muffler. Then we can pull the muffler off the mid-pipe. Now, if your truck has some rust on it or it's seen some miles, even though you've loosened those clamps, it might be a bit of a pain pulling everything loose. So it's helpful to have a couple of tools like a pry bar, a dead blow mallet, and maybe some spray lubricant to help loosen everything up. So now we have our factory muffler removed. I wanted to show you guys a quick comparison of the new Violator muffler. That way we can kind of get a good idea of where exactly it gets its name from. And as you can see, obviously, this thing is a hell of a lot smaller than the factory muffler. The factory muffler quiets things down, doesn't make the truck sound the way it should, for lack of better phrasing, and that's simply because it's got a bunch of baffles and chambers in there, right? This thing's cool because it's basically a straight-through design. There's a little bit of honeycomb factoring inside of there, but honestly, besides tuning the profile of the exhaust, it really does not restrict anything whatsoever. I also like that this thing is a lot smaller than the factory one because honestly, that makes the install a lot easier, right? There's a lot more clearance to work with, and you can actually make sure that you're sizing up your pipes just fine before you actually cut everything. And on that note, I'm actually going to show you guys a cool trick for how to get everything sized up perfectly. So let's go ahead and continue on with our install. So the easiest way to mock up the muffler is pretty straightforward actually. We're going to throw on our tailpipes that we removed earlier. Once we've done that, we're going to throw all the provided tubing onto the muffler and we're going to mock up where it sits on the truck. Once we're happy with where it's sitting, we're going to mark that mid-pipe and we're going to take a couple of inches off it using a chop saw. All right, so now that our tailpipes are hung back up and they're in place, they're ready for us to mock up our system. Now, the instructions do say that you should cut these little outlet pipes right here. Honestly, that's more complicated than it needs to be. It's a lot easier if you actually just cut the extension pipe that's going to go on the factory mid-pipe. So this actually makes it even easier in terms of mocking it up. You can actually permanently fix these outlet pipes to the muffler itself using the clamps provided in the kit. You're going to need one of the standard small clamps, and you'll need a 13mm socket to tighten these down. You're also going to need the clamp that has the hanger on there. I went ahead and took that off just to keep things easy and clear for us. You're going to need a 16mm deep socket to tighten this one down. All All right, so you can see I have the muffler mocked up and supported behind me. Those little outlet pipes, which we are not going to cut, are feeding directly into our tailpipes, and our hanger lines up pretty good as well. So we're all good to go on that end. Like I said, all we gotta do is cut this mid pipe, but before we do that, we gotta make sure we cut it to the correct length. So you can see right here, I have this little gap between the muffler inlet and the factory mid pipe. Go ahead and hold this up next to it, grab a tape measure, and measure how much you need to cut off of this thing. You don't wanna butt everything up directly to the flared end of this because it could get a little tight. I'd leave maybe 1/4 of an inch right here where the mid pipe's gonna fit into this flared end here. All right, once you got your pipe cut and deburred, go ahead and double check the fitment. Once you're happy with where it fits and you know everything's gonna work, you can pull the tailpipes and muffler back off the truck so we can throw this guy back in place. We're gonna clamp him down and we're gonna continue with our install. All right, once you got your tailpipes removed, you can go ahead and throw the pipe that we just cut onto the muffler, and we're gonna actually hang the muffler up with the pipe and these 2 large clamps right here. You're only gonna hand tighten this clamp that secures it to the mid pipe because we wanna have some play and adjustment if needed. However, you can tighten down this one that secures the pipe to the muffler, and to tighten this down, you're gonna need a 15mm deep socket. All right, now that our muffler is hung up, we want to support it with this hanger that we removed from that 1D clamp earlier. So go ahead and throw the hanger into one of the factory rubber isolators and then thread the studded portion through the clamp itself. Now you want to hand tighten the nuts to keep the muffler in place, but again, we still want to have a little bit of play and adjustment room here, so I'm not going to tighten these down just yet. I'm going to go ahead and tighten these down later once the tailpipes are installed, and to tighten these nuts down, you're going to use an 18mm wrench. All right, with our muffler hanger in place, we can finally install our tailpipes for the last time. Now, for lack of better phrasing, it's a pain in the ass trying to line up both of the rubber isolators on these hangers while threading the tailpipe into the muffler. So, easy thing to do, you can probably see them right behind me, we're just pulling the rubber isolators off completely. We're then gonna throw the tailpipe into the muffler. It should support it well enough, then you can line everything up and just slide the rubber isolators back in place. This is also gonna allow us to make any adjustments we need to where the muffler itself sits. All right, so once you got your tailpipes and rubber isolators on for the last time, you can do some final adjustments. You might be able to see right behind me, I actually have the muffler held in place with a pole jack. I got it at the perfect height, so once I tighten down all the clamps, both tailpipes and the exhaust tips will be square with their holes in the bumper. Now to tighten down all the clamps, again, you're gonna need a 15mm deep socket, and it's helpful to have a friend kind of hold these in place as you do so. All right, so we have all our clamps tightened down and our exhaust pretty much sits perfectly on the truck. Last step is tightening down that hanger. Once your muffler is at the right height, again, you'll need an 18mm wrench for this one. So once you got all those clamps tightened down, double check your fitment, and that should wrap up the install. It also wraps up my review of the Pypes Violator Muffler fitting your 09 to 18 factory dual exhaust equipped Ram 1500. I'm Travis, thanks for watching, and for all things Ram, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.